All right. We are live. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So good to see your faces today, as always, of course. I'm going to go ahead and mute our participants, but of course, we want to hear everybody's voices at different points throughout the morning. So we will jump in this morning. Words of gratitude. Moda ani. Rabba emunatecha, great is your trust. How great it is that we get to wake up and be here this day, recognizing on Shabbat particularly the gift of our souls, of our individual lives, never to be taken for granted. We continue with our blessing for those wearing a talit. We'll read together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehit atef b'tzitzit. Amen. Our matovu, how beautiful are our spaces. We're talking a lot about holy spaces in this week's Torah portion. And every space, last night I mentioned this rabbinic commentary of a mikdash me'at, that we are all capable of being a small sanctuary. We can have a sanctuary anywhere that we bring that right intention. Ma tovu. Ma tovu. Oh, just landed on my windowsill right there. It's got a lot of different colors in it. Wow, just when we're singing Ma Tovu, appreciating our space, I've never actually seen one land that close. So we shift our attention from our physical space and our surroundings, and we start to think about our bodies, however they are working or not working today. It is just amazing in and of itself that we are here, that we are present in whatever capacity that we bring. So we'll read together in English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom, you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar umachli la'asot. Invite us to take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. With our next breath, I want you to set the intention of letting go of anything from this week, this past week, that you don't need to carry with you, anything that doesn't serve you. Think about on the exhale, just letting it all go. And we'll take one more breath, thinking about the life and the energy that we want to bring in this coming Shabbat to set ourselves up for the coming week. Shabbat links us to our breath, specifically the story of God breathing life into the first human beings with our souls. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, God, the soul that you have given, tehora hi, it is pure. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, tehora hi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, tehora hi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, tehora hi. Again, Elohai neshama shenatata bi, tehora hi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, tehora hi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, Psalm 150. No matter what instruments we have or don't have in our repertoire, the thing that every single one of us possesses, that last line, Kol HaNeshama, our souls, our breath, those are the most important instruments in our lives. Hallelujah, 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 as we come to our Baruchu, going through all of the exercises of awakening to our space, to our bodies, to our spirits, now ready as a community to join in prayer and worship. We'll rise in spirit or in body. Together, praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai, in wisdom you formed them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we may all swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of heavenly lights. We continue with our Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod, Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod, Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Those who are standing can be seated. We'll continue together chanting Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'beitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uk'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu totafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'yisharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liod lahem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem. Emet. Our Micha Mocha, our prayer of freedom, of celebration. This melody this morning, we've sung it a few times. I know we used to do it in person and maybe it's been a while on Zoom, but this is a composition by Alana Arian, formerly of Brooklyn, now in Westchester, Connecticut. But when she wrote this setting, she wanted to imagine what could it have been like to feel freedom for that very first time? We know that in our story, right around Michamocha, the Song of the Sea that we read just a few weeks ago, we know that the Israelites sang and danced. That's part of the narrative of these words of Michamocha. And so, I want to invite you, do whatever you need, whatever in your body to make you feel free. We'll start Yalalai. Yalalai, 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 Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Hopefully we feel just a little bit more awake, a little bit freer, a little more joy, and we take that energy with us to our Amidah, rising in body or spirit. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagipur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezoher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevii Geulah Lifnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham v'Zrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atarav lechoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidomelach, Melech mimit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol, Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם. אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל HaKadosh. On Shabbat, we think of the joy. The rabbis teach that Shabbat is actually not just a day set apart, but a day where we get a glimpse of a fraction of what a perfect world could be. And so we channel that vision of joy, of perfection. And on Shabbat, we're supposed to be even happier than any other day in the week. So we'll join together for our Yismechu. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Mekadshei, Mekadshei Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yispehu, V'yitangu metuvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi ratzita bo v'kidashu Shabbat, Chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Zecher lemase, lemase v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher lemase, lemase v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, oneg Shabbat. We'll read together this prayer for this day of Shabbat. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. So we take a few minutes as we come to our special section in the Amidah, all about gratitude, to think about what in our lives we are feeling grateful for today. And when we share these words of gratitude, it not only benefits us, getting us to think about the good in our lives, but it benefits our whole community, getting to share our joy with others. Anybody have anything you're feeling grateful for? Helene?
The sun is shining.
The sun is shining. It is cold, and yet there is sun. Yes, indeed, Freema.
Well, I am thankful for you and the services, and I'm also thankful that this week a lot of the snow melted, and just that everybody is status quo. So far, I know everybody is well and healthy, and I thank God for that. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
And I'm going to see Larry tomorrow.
Nice. Anybody else have anything? You can also share in the chat if you don't want to.
Rabbi, it's Beverly.
Hello,
I would like
Beverly.
to, hi. So I'm grateful that Patty Ann has shared her computer with me this morning and that I'm able to participate on Zoom instead of by phone, which is okay, but this is much better. And I would be a lot more grateful if I could figure out how to get the camera on.
Oh my goodness, let's take a tech break for a moment.
Can I have a tech break? Would that be completely out of the question?
No, not at all. Look, I'm grateful to be in community with people who
you.
are logging on to Zoom, right? So
what do I do?
You're on a computer. Is there a bar on the bottom of the screen that has like a little microphone? So there should be a little camera icon that says start.
Oh my goodness, there is. Should I press it?
Let's do it. Suspense, everybody.
It didn't work.
Maybe the camera doesn't work. I'm sorry. We'll work on that another time. Well, I'm grateful that you get to be here and we at least get your voice. Karen shared in the chat, grateful that her great nephew James is recovering from heart surgery. Anything else anyone wants to share?
No, what are you doing?
All right, well, for all of our blessings, we are grateful. And if you come up with something at any point during the rest of our morning together, it's always a good time to share gratitude, not just when it's prescribed in the Amidah. So do share with us. We'll continue with silent prayer.
I am grateful to be sharing this holiday, this Shabbos, with all of you. Thank you.
Beautiful. My friends, we come to our Torah service. So this morning we are in the book of Exodus still, and our Parsha is, I have to say, every piece of Torah is, of course, beautiful. There is meaning and wisdom to be derived from all of it. And I do happen to love this Torah portion, Truma, this week. And so I'm so excited that we get to share this Shabbat Truma together and dive into some text. So I will share our Torah blessings. 1 second while they load. Here we go. All right, so our blessings. Is anybody feeling inspired to lead our Aliyah this morning?
Okay, I will.
Amazing. Okay, Robert, great.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bocha Bonu Mokol Hamin V'nosan Lana Estar So Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen. So our reading this morning from the very beginning of our Parsha. Make it a little bigger. Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'kuli truma me'et kol ish asher yidvenu libo tikhu et trumati v'zot hatruma asher tikhu me'itam zachav v'chesef u'nechoshet u'tehelet ve'argaman v'tolat shani v'sheish v'izim ve'orot elim me'odamim ve'orot techashim ve'atzei shitim shemen lema'or besamim leshemen hamishcha v'liktoret hasamim avnei shocham ve'avnei miluim la'efod ve'lachoshen ve'asuli mikdash V'shachanti b'tocham. And Robert, let me share our Torah, our closing Torah blessing. One moment. All right.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bocha Lanu Torah Emes V'notan Lanu Es Torah So Baruch Adonai. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let's.
Od Nota B'Sochenu. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Thank you. The formatting on this website is a little funky. You have to go from there, then to the bottom. All right, my friends. We are in Parshat Truma. And this Parsha, so the section that we read, is talking about the Israelites are in the wilderness and they're getting ready to build this Mishkan, a tabernacle, a dwelling place. Oh my goodness, in religious school this morning, we talked about what this Torah portion was all about. And I asked, okay, we're talking about this Mishkan, like, what is another word for Mishkan? And someone said, a little house. And I said, whose house is it? And it was like the youngest members of the community, and it's God's house. It's just, got it. And so in this section, the line that we ended with, God says, Ve'asuli mikdash, make for me a dwelling place, a sanctuary, a tabernacle. V'shachanti bitocham, and I will dwell, v'shachanti bitocham. Bitoch literally means like in, and the preposition at the end is a directional you, plural you, and I will dwell in you. All right, there are many different translations of this Torah portion. There are many translations, particularly when it comes to that one line of text. Most classically, it's translated as build me a sanctuary and I'm going to dwell among you, right? I'm just going to go hang out in that sanctuary. But the true close reading that is kind of the miraculous part about this verse is God saying, I'm going to dwell just kind of in that Mishkan, in that little space that's being dwelt? Yes, but also the language clues us into a little secret. I'm going to dwell within you. The people are embarking on this magical building project. And by doing that, they're inviting holiness into themselves, into their own souls. The text invites, God says that every single person in the Israelite community, every single person is invited to help in the process of building this Mishkan. And not just invited to help, but actually everybody has a responsibility to participate in this. And God says to bring whatever your heart moves you to bring. You know, God didn't say, okay, well, each of you needs to contribute a certain amount of money or a certain amount of goods. No, you could do whatever you needed. If you had physical goods, great. If you were a craftsperson and could contribute of your time and of your work, great. As long as they were being moved by what was in their hearts. So I want us to look this morning at a couple of commentaries, and I'm going to pull them up in a second. Okay. So and I know, so this is a really old scan that I have back from rabbinical school. So I know that it's not so easy to read, but I did want us to look at this compilation. So a bunch of different rabbinic commentators. Does anybody feel like you could take on reading this? The first one, if you can see, and Ellen, awesome.
Yeah, that they take me an offering. The Torah preceded the Parshat of Truma with that of Mishpatim to teach us that an offering using money acquired justly is pleasing to God, but not one using money acquired illegally. The latter is despicable.
All right, so what is our connection to Parshat Mishpatim? Do we remember all the way back a whole week ago what was going on in our Torah portion? So we had rules of justice, of how to treat other people, these laws of human interaction. And so we're saying, okay, we're building our Mishkan following all of these rules and laws about how should people behave and how should people act justly, because once we kind of bring of ourselves to this building project, we're supposed to only use things that were acquired in a proper manner. And maybe that's some of the lesson of where things go, why they're matched together. Helene, did you have?
Yes, that they take me an offering. The Parsha of Mishpatim comes before that of Teruma to teach us that even though a person who is generous and gives tzedakah is pleasing to God, that is only true if his money was acquired justly in accordance with the laws of Torah. Otherwise, it has no value. Thus, Maharsha writes in his Hidushei Agodat, Ketubat 67, there are many in this generation who acquire their wealth through illicit means and through the profanation of God's name, such as by stealing from non-Jews, and who afterwards donate this money for their glory, and so as to receive a blessing. This is the fulfillment of a positive commandment by means of committing a sin, and as such is not a positive commandment at all.
Okay, so the Maharsha here is going off of the first commentary, that not only does it matter that we give, but the intention, and not just the intention, but how we are giving makes a difference. It must be that we acquire our gifts or our tzedakah in a just way. All right, let us go to this one. Anybody want to take on a certain chassid? I might see Hazel's hand. Yeah.
A certain chassid came to the Rebbe of Gustinin and told him of how bitter his life was. He had gone bankrupt and owed a great deal of money, which he was unable to repay. At the end of their meeting, the man handed the Rebbe the customary pidyon, a gift of money to be used by the rabbis as he saw fit. The rabbi refused to accept the money from him and told him that a person is first required to pay off all his debts before he may give gifts. One has no right to give tzedakah at the expense of others.
Thanks. All right. And then let's go to this take me an offering. Prima.
That they take me an offering. The verb for take here, yeyecha, also means to trade or engage in business. A person who has a business does not close up his shop if one of his ventures was not successful. He knows that if he stops trading, his business will collapse entirely. The same is true for the Torah and the commandments. If a person does not succeed once or twice, he must continue to work at improving himself and not give up. If the Torah is not learned and the commandments not performed, the world simply cannot exist.
All right, that's coming from Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk. Any thoughts on this or other texts that we've looked at so far? What is Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk saying? What's his message here? Yeah, Prima, go for it.
The muting and the unmuting is like, okay. I could understand this one, like you have to keep on trying, and yes, it's very hard if you're in business, but I didn't understand the last one, because sometimes, I mean, a lot of people are in debt or they don't have exactly the money at that time, but I feel that it's I feel that if everybody waits until they're not in debt, then no one will be able to give charity, because I feel sometimes that we're all in debt in one way or the other if we didn't pay something. So
Yeah.
I sort of like disagree with, I feel we could do both. I
That's
feel
fair. That was, that is one person's opinion, right? And one kind of folktale. But I think when we're looking at especially rabbinic text and commentary like this and Midrash, that we have to ask the background question of like, why? What is the message they're trying to get across, and why? That in this time period, I think the underlying message is that you still have to take care of yourself and make sure that your bases are covered, right? If this rabbi is not accepting tzedakah, saying, you know what, use this, you need to first take care of yourself. And that needs to be the focus before you look outwards. And I think if we kind of take it that way, then that gives us a good lesson of any way to live our lives. And then exactly, so this one, which I happen to really like, if at first you don't succeed, brush yourself off and try again, right? That things in life are going to be hard, are going to take commitment, and things are not always going to be a success on the first try, but we have to keep working at it. Sorry, all. I'm looking at my dog who is not doing well. I'm going to get you to these two, and if I could please have two folks to look at these texts and read them.
I'll take another one. That they may, I think Rabbi's taking care of the dog. That they take me an offering. A folk saying states, a fool gives and a wise man takes. This refers to a person who gives tzedakah. A fool who gives tzedakah thinks he is giving, while a wise man who gives realizes that he is taking. He is the one who benefits most by his action. Can't see who wrote that. think it's the same one as the last one, Rabbi of Mitzvah, whatever. I'll read the next one. That they take me an offering. Why doesn't the Torah state they will give me? This is a hint at the difficulty involved in raising money for any worthwhile cause. Often the problem is not finding those who are willing to give, but a failure to find people who are willing to do the work involved in raising the money. Jews are asked for donations and they give, even for causes to which they should not give, but there are not enough people to work at raising the money needed for a worthwhile cause. Indeed, many institutions have collapsed because of the absence of dedicated workers. The Torah therefore commanded, let take them, that
Let them take.
Let them take. Oh, that people should be willing to work to raise money for worthy causes.
Okay. And one more that we'll look at. They take me an offering, me, for my sake. This is a message to those in charge of charities, those whose job it is to take, that they do so for the sake of heaven and not for the glory of themselves. On the other hand, the Torah does not state me in regard to those who give tzedakah. One who gives tzedakah so that my son will live is also considered to have fulfilled his obligation, even if his motives are improper. The main thing is that he should give. So we now see a contradictory text and a contradictory view than the one that Frima did not love at the beginning, right? So I guess the question is, how do we think about giving, whether it is giving of ourselves? Here we're actually talking, a lot of the examples that the rabbis are focusing on is giving physical or monetary gifts. So what is the best way in thinking about whether it's tzedakah, whether it's building up a Jewish community? How do we determine what it is that we give? Do any of you, I'm curious, have thoughts on that? Or
yeah, I think we should give as we are able. So you shouldn't do something that you can't do, but if you can do something, you should do it. For instance, I was really taken with the one about leadership, people who do, but don't want to be the innovators, the leaders. They want to be followers and not leaders, and we need both. But without leaders, which I'm concerned with Bishert, we don't have an organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that resonated with me.
Yeah, it's easy to participate, and oftentimes, especially in the Jewish community, there is a repetitive trope of the same people always doing everything, and there's danger of burnout in that, right? So, maybe bringing of ourselves is thinking a little bit more about, okay, if we give a certain kind of gift and, volunteer or already give money or whatever, how could we maybe give time or vice versa? And whatever ways actually, work for us and are sustainable. Any other, Frima?
For me personally, I like to give from the heart. I mean, if there are things that are really, really very important to me, I try to give them. Sometimes it's obligatory gifts that sometimes you have to give, and sometimes you just give from your heart. And I find myself that giving, even if it's a little bit, really makes you feel good. Besides that, it helps whoever you're giving, but I believe in your heart, it makes you feel good. And also time. Yeah, I believe that if people have time and it's safe, especially now, to just do it. Yes, I believe in that.
Yeah, I mean, the text in the Torah says, "Asher yidvenu libo," that you should give according to how your heart feels, according to your heart, according to how your heart moves you. That we, every single one of us is different. Every single one of us has different gifts that we can bring, right? But as long as we are somewhat engaging, not just for the sake of doing, but the most important thing is that intention. Hazel.
Well, I know it was always a favorite lesson of mine to talk about tzedakah with the kids. And I give credit to an organization that would do lessons. It was a Torah Ora.
Mhm.
And one of the prepared lessons, they made a distinction between charity and tzedakah. And they would point out that charity comes to the word caritas, heart, and that charity is giving from the heart. And we think of that as it's a Jewish thing, but also a Christian thing. Whereas tzedakah, the root of the word is righteousness, tzedek. And in that case, it's doing the right thing. And it's an obligation. And I love Maimonides' ladder of giving of charity.
Yeah.
There talks about, you should give, you might get, I don't remember the exact order, but there are those who give but don't give enough, as much as they're capable of. There are those who give only after they're asked. There are those who give grudgingly. And whether the donor is anonymous and the recipient is anonymous, and it's best if both are anonymous so that there's no sense of obligation later on. And the final one is to give in order to enable an individual to be able to be independent. And in Torah, we talk about, the tithing and giving a tenth. And so there is an obligatory element in it. And in Teruma, it does bring in the charity, the giving part.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Maimonides' ladder of tzedakah, if you're not familiar with it, kind of breaks down like what is, all giving is good. And there are still levels. One of my favorite activities with students in person is, having the individual types of tzedakah and having people try to order to figure out what is kind of the most high level. And I think this point about charity versus tzedakah, here the word we're using, truma, it's a donation, it's a gift. So it is different. It's different than tzedakah. It's different than that kind of commandment, but they're almost woven together because God is still commanding this donation, which is different than tzedakah. So maybe one of the differences is that, in tzedakah, it gets a little bit more specific of what you're supposed to give and how you're supposed to give, but maybe this type of donation where it comes in as your heart moves you, that you're still being commanded that you need to bring something, but less of what it is and more kind of the intention behind it might shift. Nice. Robert, and then Joel.
Yeah. If you can't, from what I understand in the Talmud, let's say you can't teach someone how to make a tuna fish sandwich and you want to give them money for a tuna fish sandwich, while it's a lesser level, if the person uses the money for something that's not right, like alcohol, you've done your job. It's not your responsibility to go find out where he's spending the money, as far as I know.
Right.
That it's the giving, the act of giving that counts, not the end result, although it's better to teach him to make his own tuna fish sandwich because he's more
It's better to have him go catch the fish.
Right.
That's
fishing rather than anything.
Nice. Joel.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has taught us something, though. There's more giving than just money. I think the people have given a lot of good during this pandemic. People call their neighbors to keep in touch, making sure people are okay. My friends have been wonderful. For instance, I get a lot of calls. Caring Committee, I know, Rima, I'll give you a plug, have done a lot of good things. And sometimes the money, though, is what bothers me is, you give money anonymously because you want to help the charity is fine. What bothers me is somebody who gives a lot of money, get the money and has to publicize, or look what I did. Look what I did. Are they really giving the money because they want to help somebody? Or are they giving the money because they want the publicity and how great they are?
And that's why, like Maimonides picks up on this. And so it's good to give and, be recognized. It's even better to give and be anonymous. Nice. So I think, there's so much more we can dive into, and we'll kind of get to the next piece. I think the connection when we look at giving as your heart moves you, and then why we're building this thing, we're giving as our heart moves us, because ultimately that is going to bring a connection to the divine. And so I want us to look at these words a little bit. Maybe you know this melody, we sang it last night. Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. I'll go ahead and share up here. And just setting an intention that we all, it's a Jewish value. We talk about it all the time, that we have a divine spark in us. And I think more important than that is that we all have the ability to be a mikdash, a temple, a sanctuary, a holy space. And last night I touched on this concept of a mikdash me'at. Me'at is like literally little. And the rabbi said that any place has the ability to be a mikdash me'at. Any place has the ability to be a sanctuary, whether we're in our physical sanctuary, whether we're in our apartments. Like we talk about that in Matovu, right? That our spaces have the power of holiness. And finally, the most important thing, not only can a physical place be a mikdash me'at, but every single person has the ability to be a mikdash me'at. Every single person has the ability to be a sanctuary. Lord, prepare me, be a sanctuary, pure and holy, right and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Vasuli. We continue thinking about those in our lives whose physical bodies were all sanctuaries, and some of those sanctuaries, let's say, are built and run a little smoother than others. Some of our sanctuaries are in need of repair, in need of healing of mind, healing of body, healing of spirit. And so at this point, we turn our thoughts to those who are in need of healing, mind, body, and soul. In our Beshert community, we are thinking this week of Jesse Sakharoff, Ira Weiss, Elaine Drucker, Allison Plummer, Rabbi Daryl Lerner, Susan Sisler, Joe Ellen Fox, Alan Freemer, Valerie Pace, George Landberg, Susan Bilecki, Dana Haitkin Nelson, Arlene Rosenthal, Michael Luck, Barbara Weiner, Joan Lifshitz, Amy Juskowitz, Sue Seller, Deanna Roth, Arthur Derry, Jonathan Falkowski, Martha and Ed Vincent, Ingrid Grosso, Audrey Cohen, Eddie DeAngelis, Vicki Lightmaker, Sarah Brooks Kamen, Nettie Traumer, Nia Gannon, Jerry Prezioso, Jeff Abel, Patricia Christensen, Monica Beyer, John Bile, Les Schenker, Irv Golden, Seymour Friedbaum. We'll also share those names in the chat and then give folks a chance to unmute. Alid and Pat Colella, Paul Markowitz, Delphine Wolf, Jesse Levin, Doreen.
Yes, Larry and Lenore Arano, Taylor Anderson, Maria Gaines, and colleague Hepson and her mom and grandmother all dealing with COVID in their family. Thank you.
It's Freema.
Okay. Francina Mitchell, Popowitz, Carol Beanstalk, Kathy's brother Gabby, Martin Bennett, Reva and David Cohen, and Phyllis O'Neill. Thank you.
Also in the chat, Rebecca Rothstein, Bambi Polk, Melissa Polk, Baby James Scarpula, Elliot Woofsey, Suzanne Mishler Hernandez, Paul Markowitz, Robert Trachtman, Nancy Kelly. We hold all of these names close in our hearts. So we join together for Misha Beirach, our prayer for healing. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mikor Havracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Beirach Imotenu Mikor Havracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. 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 We continue Aleinu L'Shabeach, rising in body or spirit. Aleinu L'Shabeach Ladon Hakol Lateit Gerula Yotzer Bereshit Shehu Notei Shamayim V'Yoser Haaretz U'Moshav Yikaro B'Shamayim Mima'al U'Shchinatu Zo B'Govchei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Ein Od Ve'anachnu Korim U'Mishtachavim U'Modim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'Nemar V'Haya Adonai L'Melech Al Kol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad Ushemo Echad. We now turn our thoughts to those who we've lost at this time in seasons past and in recent days. Our Beshert community mourns our recent losses: Della Cohen, Fran Arnowitz, Selma Carl, Harold Carl, Emily Seth, Moshe Usher Reinitz, Huma Saber, Layla Bloomfield, John Carfisi, Andy Glantzman, Todd Zeitlin, John Privat Jr., Augie Dorio, Janet Esposito, Kay Josephs, Arnold Block, Elizabeth Clark, Kyle McGee Sr., Ida Houston, Louisa Espute, Perry De La Touche, Ira Roth, Roberta Hyreth, George Liss, Reverend Claude Park Street, Sylvia Tishkovich, Ellen Bolofsky, Cindy Retagliata, Dolores Weinberger, Suzanne Lechnos, Shirley Kofker, Lillian Frost Ridgely, Thomas Marinan, Meg Goldate, Marguerite Romeo, John Young, Isadora Frost, Fred Perlman, Claire Kramer, Bob Ira Kleinberg, Dorothea Schuring, Peter Brandenberger, Lloyd Ricketts, Ellie Heimlich, Sherry Burns, Terry Singer, Henry Kuhn, and Lily Zimmett. I'll share our yahrzeit list, and I'll invite anybody to unmute or to share names in the chat of other people who you're thinking of. So, Freema.
Jack Mandel and Betty Rubel. Thank you.
Also in the chat, we have Herb Nagel, Edith Galitos, Robert Carlsberg, Gladys Whitehead, Ethel Davis. Is there anybody, any other names that you would like to share?
Just on the list is my husband, Sandy Tishkoff.
Right on the bottom.
He died 11 years ago.
You want to type something?
Yeah.
On the right, on the right.
Shirley, would you like to just say anything out loud?
Yes, please.
The big box on
Sylvia Barron and Estelle Karp. Thank you.
Thank you. We hold all of these names of dear ones, beloved family members in our hearts. We join together. Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei t'kudisha barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'yimromav, hu yaseh shalom, alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. So friends, we'll take a moment for community announcements. Anybody have anything to share that's coming up? Joel and then Ellen.
Okay, go Joel.
Okay. All right, we have a brotherhood meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 for the couple of men who are here. And after the brotherhood meeting at 10:15, anyone who wants to join us to share some of the memories they have about past Super Bowls are welcome to join us. So what they're going to do next week, I know a lot of you are going to be drinking wine, but besides that, what else you want to do for this next week, since things have changed a little bit. And we hope we see a lot of people there for the brotherhood meeting. We hope we see some people there afterwards. Thank you, Rabbi. Great service.
Ellen.
Okay, Joel, go to the meeting if you want to talk about Super Bowl and support the brothers. But on the 13th, we have an alternative to the Super Bowl. We have a Zoom wine tasting party hosted by the bubbly, and I mean bubbly, Emma Tattenbaum Fine and her husband, Luke Krafka. I think Krafka. Oh gosh, Krafka. Anyway, oh Lord. You can register on Eventbrite. Just go to wine at Beshert, one word, wineatbeshert.eventbrite.com to register. You can purchase your wine at some place called Gnarly Vines, which you can see on that when you register, you will see, or you can purchase wine or not purchase wine in a local wine store. So we hope to see you. Register. We've got 25 people so far, and we'd love to see some more. We'll have fun. And you can watch the Super Bowl too at the same time. No
yes,
problem.
You can, go back and forth between Super Bowl and wine, whatever makes you happy. All of the options. Freema, yeah.
I wanted Doreen to make the announcement. Doreen, you're going to make?
Doreen, go
about the women's thing on Tuesday.
Jane, were you going to do it? You just unmuted. You can do it.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to mention this guy. Thank you, Doreen. There's going to be a meeting on Tuesday with the women's group at 7:30 with Ron Schweiger talking about the history of Hadassah in Brooklyn and other Jewish philanthropists. Thank you.
Yeah, that should be very interesting and good. So check out all of these things going on. We will close with those words again, that intention. May we all be a sanctuary. May we all be pure and holy. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Vasuli, Mikdash, Veshanti, Betocham, Vasuli, My friends, a blessing for us. Yivarech Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God be kind and gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you feel that divine presence with you always, remembering that God or the divine is all around us at any moment, and even more than around us, we all have that divinity in us. We all have that ability to be a mikdash, a sanctuary for ourselves and for everybody else in our lives, however we feel is the right way to go about that.